Hello and welcome back to Dare to Write. This is session 2 and hopefully now you have completed your template and downloaded your PDF. So have you discovered why you are writing and who you are writing for, who your audience is? Have you set your goals? Are you writing at least 300 words a day? That's what you need to be doing by now, and at least planning that and getting that down on paper. So today we have a massive session of information for you, and Lynn will be sharing now about the different methods of publishing that you can choose.
And it's pretty complex. So I'm going to be sharing, but also backing up with slides along the way, just so you can follow along. You can talk to any author and have different descriptions of the publishing paths. Tracey and I are enveloping this for you under 4 key ones. And under each one, there are options as well, which is why it's such a complex world, which is why you're with us in this course.
It is so complex, isn't it?
It sure is. It sure is. And we're glad that you're with us so we can help you through. Okay, so the 4 publishing paths, just to set the umbrella right now, are traditional, hybrid, small press, and indie or independent author. There are pros and cons to all 4 of these publishing paths. And between Tracey and I think we've probably experienced 3 out of the 4. So let's start with traditional. Most do not accept unsolicited manuscripts. And this means that almost always, if you choose to go the traditional route, you're going to need to find a literary agent. They are sought out through query letters. And they're the middle people, basically, who find the publishers for you, and they negotiate an agreement for you. I have several friends, several people who have published, sought out the traditional publisher's way. Some of them successful, some not so much. You can expect to send out 50 letters, query letters, and depending upon the genre of your book, the query letter will look different because every literary agent has a set requirement. So you're drafting the query letters and you're sending them out en masse, and you're sitting back and you're waiting and enjoying your time, basically. Is there anything you want to add to that, Tracey?
Yeah, just that it's extremely difficult to get a literary agent, and really you need to have an audience already to attain a literary agent. They'll expect you to have thousands and thousands of followers to know that your book is going to sell. So be prepared to accept rejection. However, there are some amazing first-time authors that have been successful. So if your book really is up there with the top 10% in the world, you are definitely, it's still possible for you. And don't forget, J.K. Rowling was rejected at least 50 times.
So the big 5, when we talk about traditional publisher, you're going to hear words like the big 5, and they're Penguin Random House, HarperCollins, Hachette, Simon & Schuster, and Macmillan. But there are also other traditional publishers. They're not called the big 5, but they operate in the same way. And I'll give you some examples. Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, Scholastic, Source Books, Wiley & Sons, The Chronicle, Tyndale, and many university presses. So what are the pros of choosing the traditional publishing path? You pay no money up front. That's a great pro. That's a wonderful thing. You do receive an advance payment. There's always a professional sales team with connections to major retailers out there, and your book will likely find its way into those bricks and mortar stores like Barnes & Noble's, Indigo, Chapters. Books from traditional publishers are sought out because they have that reputation. They're known as the big 5 or traditional publishers, and you certainly have access to a global market. But here are the cons, because you need to know both sides before you make your decision. You may not see any royalties if the book does not sell as that publisher expects. So you're going to get that one-time payment up front, and that might be all that you see. And here's the hard part for me. You can all make your own decision. You'll give up total control over your cover, your interior design, as well as the final decisions about your title and your content. So traditional publishers have the right to change all of those things. You need to work, we already talked about the challenges of finding a literary agent and the time that takes to do so. It's a much longer process, therefore, as a result. And the company holds all of the rights to your book for at least 5 years. So something to take into consideration. That means you do not have the rights to take it somewhere else or try to sell it to another company or anything else. That traditional publisher holds total rights. And Tracey, you already said it, expect rejections.
Absolutely.
We're going to jump over to hybrid publishing now, and it's a very different kettle of fish because you still maintain your rights as an author and a publisher, but you have a company that has in-house experts that you're working through. You have packages that you're going to purchase into. Some of them have various ones to choose from. Some of them have add-ons because if you're a new author, you don't really know what you need right from the get-go. So most have some flexibility. Some examples of a hybrid are She Writes, InkShares, Freeze and Press, and Tellwell. So let's take a look at the pros and the cons of hybrid publishing. The good things are you have access to professionals with experience and expertise. So when you want to do a cover design, you've got a graphic designer in there. You know exactly that person is qualified because the company has already checked out their qualifications and vetted them out for their expertise. You also have people who excel on interior design, on cover design, on layout, on all of the things that you need as a brand new author. The process is laid out step by step by step. And typically you're working with one key person as a contact. They have platforms for distribution. The challenge is do not get in the mindset that because they have a massive global distribution and they have 400 stores at their disposal, that your book will actually end up in those stores, because way down further in the courses, we'll be talking to you about publicity and promotion. And regardless of how you publish, it's on you.
I was just going to say that absolutely, that no matter what, the marketing still comes down to you in those companies. You are responsible for your marketing and publishing, even though they have outlets and a lot more outlets than you would normally be privy to as an independent author. You are still absolutely responsible for your own marketing and publishing.
All right, so some of the cons, we just kind of went into that segue. So you're paying up front for your package. There's no guarantee that your book is going to be picked up by these bricks and mortar stores. They keep a percentage of your book sales. And so Indigo just changed its rules. Unless you put a 55% royalty rate, you're never going to see your book land in an Indigo, a Chapters, a Barnes & Noble, any of those big ticket stores. So that means if your book is $20 as a simple example, and they buy 10 for a Chapters store, they're keeping 55% of the sale of your book. If you put it at 25%, your books will never be in one of those stores. We'll tell you that right now.
Yes, I actually made a mistake with one of my first books. I actually gave the discount at 55% and actually ended up losing money on the print. So it was only cents. It was minimal, absolutely minimal cents. However, it's definitely something to be aware of.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And something to keep in mind as well. So if you choose a hybrid company like the last one I did, who has a massive distribution network, although I'm the author and the publisher, I don't have access to my sales pages on Amazon, on Ingram, because of the way they do distribution. So I'm limited in the promotions that I can do. I can't put the book on sale. I can't do an Amazon ad. So there are pros and cons to each, but it really is just understanding and being able to ask the questions that you should be as you start to speak with these publisher companies that you might be possibly hiring. And we're going to give you at the end of this session a free publishing toolkit with questions already ready for you. And as you're calling around, you know exactly what to ask to gather that information, so you don't get caught like Tracey did with the 55% and like I did, not having access to be able to do promotions. All right, so we've covered traditional and hybrid. Let's move on to small presses. So these are independently run. They're smaller, but they should be staffed by a publishing team. And you're going to find them in your local area. I'm in Windsor, Essex County in Southern Ontario, and we have 8 small presses right here in my community. What about Tracey over in Australia? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, well, I'm from Perth in Western Australia. It's a very big state, but there's only probably 2.5 million people here in the whole state. And there's a lot of creativity here. There's a lot of publishing. There's a lot of print companies. I would say there's too many to count, to be honest. There are so many people that are consulting. Let's just put it, consulting and small press owners that yes, you can get advice from, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So the pros, we'll take a look at the slide here. They might be in your local area, which means easier access, right? Because they're in your local community. They will almost always be the ones to put your book up on Amazon for you. As a new author, there's a better chance that you're going to be picked up by a small press than you would be by a traditional publisher, and you don't need to have a literary agent. And those small presses also take more risks than traditional publishers do as well. Any other pros that you can think of besides creativity and finding some levels of expertise and consultation, Tracey?
Well, it's great to find a team of people that you can work with, especially if it is in your local area. It makes you feel supported, and you know that you can talk to people. Usually, with a small press, you pay a price up front and you do get access to them sort of as much as you need, in my experience. So sometimes it's just great to be able to work with people that really do have the expertise that you need.
All right, and the cons. So almost always there's no advance. And as Tracey said, you are paying an upfront cost. You can take a look at that as a pro or a con. Many rely on print on demand. And what that means is when an order comes in, they print a book. If 5 orders come in, they print 5 books. But you want to make sure that they have distribution, so they could do a bulk order if you needed a bulk order, right? They do not have as big a reach possibly as your hybrid publishers and your traditional publishers do, but you do have to ask those questions.
And once again, it does come down to you for your marketing and publishing as well. So bear that in mind.
And be careful with small presses. This is one of the questions you will ask. Do they have an in-house sales team? Many of them do not. And that's important to your decision-making on which publishing path you're going to choose. All right, we move on to indie now. And this is a whole other kettle of fish in its own. So indie means you're an independent author. You're the author and you're also the publisher. That's what indie author means. So you're the publisher, you hold all the rights, and you're going to hear these terms DIY, do it yourself. That means you're hiring people as you deem fit for your editing, your cover design, your publishing, your distribution services. You're doing it yourself, DIY. So indie authors often publish through, and we're going to give you a PDF with these resource links: Apple Books, Kobo, Amazon, KDP, and we can talk about the difference between KDP and KDP Select, but that's not important right now. Nook Press, and there's also companies that will do distribution for you, like Smashwords or Draft 2 Digital. Did you have any other ones you wanted to add, Tracey?
Yeah, Ingram Spark as well, and Lightning Press. A great print on demand to allow you to have a much bigger reach than you would expect as an independent author.
So we'll give you a list with those resource links to all of those companies that you can research on yourself if you think that independent publishing is the way you want to go. So you don't have to necessarily go out there and find an editor and find a cover designer. If there's a consulting company or something like that around that already has those experts, you can draw upon that as well. Now, there are some people out there that believe that indie authors can publish a book with no expenses whatsoever. And sure, you could write something up and you can upload it to Amazon, but you're doing a disservice to yourself as an author, and you're doing a disservice to other indie authors. So there is a cost to independent publishing, and it depends. Do you want a full copy edit or a content edit? You've got to work through all of those processes. What are you doing for your cover design? And we are going to be talking to you about that in the next session. So, pros to being an indie author. And this to me was one of the most important things for me. You maintain all creative rights for content, cover, and interior design. Whatever you decide happens. You can take people's input, you can deny people's input, whatever you decide, it's yours. You have direct access to your platforms. So like I said, if I wanted to publish in KDP on Amazon and put my book for sale, I can do that. I can do that in 5 seconds flat as an indie author, the way this happens. It is a much lower cost usually than going with hybrid or a small press, but it also depends who you hire and what you hire for. So remember that. You control all your sales, all your prices, all your promotion, all your marketing. Remember, you're controlling your promotion and marketing for all 4 publishing paths anyway. You can sell directly to your readers. As an example, if you have 20 books and you have local bookstores, you can take your books to the stores and do what's called a consignment deal. Would you take 5 of my books and put them on your shelf? And they will, typically for about 30%. So they'll keep 30% of their sales. It's negotiable. I've had some do less and some do more. So your books can be put on the shelves of all your local stores. You could drive as far as you want to be able to do that.
I've actually done that with my children's books. I have a sale or return policy. So it's a really great way to get to know your local community as well, and to perfect your sales pitch. So you can go into different bookstores and really, make an impact with why you're selling your book as well, and why you've written your book. So it's great to have a sale or return option for sure.
It also opens the doors for book signing events once we're able to do that. I mean, if you can actually be in a bookstore doing a book signing event, that's what it's all about. So if you've already got a relationship with your local bookstore owners, then that makes that a lot easier to do. You work on your own time and your own schedule. So even though all of you have set a goal in mind, and we've already said, you might say you're going to write 5 days a week, and maybe this week you only wrote 3 times. It's you. It's your timeline. You're not accountable to anybody else who's saying this has to be done by a certain date. So that takes some pressure off. That's a pro for sure. You're your own publisher. You maintain your own rights. So if you're not happy, for example, that you've uploaded your book to KDP, you can pull it out of KDP and you can go over to Ingram. You can go over to another company. There are no gatekeepers. Nobody's stopping you from doing any of those things. There's no rejection, right? Because you're an independent author. You don't have to worry about people closing doors on you. And you do have global access to readers if you know how to go about doing that. Any other pros for indie publishing, Tracey?
Well, I guess it is absolutely the freedom of choice. So it all comes, it's a learning journey. And I think writing a book has to be a learning journey. And it depends how much you want to learn and how much you want to take that to which degree you want to take it. I think it's great to have some expert advice. Consulting is a great way of doing it. But also remember, there are 130 million books available in the world right now. So it's something to bear in mind. And, it's really, I think independent publishing is a great way to go, but do perhaps get some advice as well.
Agreed. All right. So let's look at the cons for independent publishing. And to me, the largest one is distribution, because the worldwide access, even though you can use a platform like Ingram Spark and have worldwide access, you still have to do your own promotion and marketing. So all those companies know about you and about your book. How far as an independent author can you reach in your marketing, right? You do not have those connections likely. You're your own salesperson. You need to create your own marketing plan. And you've got upfront costs during the process. Can you stand out in the competition is a question all indie authors ask of themselves. The learning curve, which is why we're here with you now, is huge. It's absolutely overwhelming for an independent author. It's a whole new world with many options within it. And it is harder to get reader reviews than if you went with one of the other routes because you don't have the connections. Well, as Tracey said in the introduction, this session has a great deal of information for you, but choosing the right publishing path for you is critically important. So we hope after today's session, you have an idea. Maybe you've got it down to 2 possibilities, or you want to go independent, but you're looking at all of your options. That's where we're going to go from here. So good luck in the next little while as you do your research and get ready for session 3. See you next time.